Good day to all our colleagues in the retail and allied industries. I'm Raf Layosa, founder and CEO of Retail Gate Technologies and Managing Director of Innovation One Digital Marketing. Welcome to another episode of the country's premier retail podcast, Let's Talk Retail. Now, the retail industry has weathered numerous crises over the years, yet business-minded leaders like our esteemed guest today have not allowed any crisis to deter them from pivoting and providing exceptional care to their customers. They have consistently met customer needs, making their lives easier. Now, this resilience underscores the significance of the retail sector. Now, before we delve into this innovative episode, I would like to kindly remind you to subscribe to the PRA YouTube channel or follow us on Spotify. By doing so, you will never miss an episode. Now, let's meet our guest. He is the co-founder and chairman of edamama, the Philippines' premier online to offline parenting platform. Now, since its launch in 2020, edamama has secured over $35 million in funding from prominent investors. He also serves as an advisor to Credor, a $2 billion US private equity firm, and has previously overseen the growth of retail-focused portfolio companies in Malaysia and the Philippines. Please give a warm welcome to Nishant D'Souza. Hi, Nishant.
Hey, Raf. Great to be here. And hello to all our guests.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Nishant. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're busy with this rapidly growing company of yours, edamama. I mean, it's truly amazing. I mean, right smack during the pandemic, you launched this innovative company. And just 3 years down the line, you are already where a lot of others wish they could have been and where they are now after how many years. And perhaps before we get into the whole story of it, I want to really understand, what was it like back in 2020, given, of course, the climate, everything, everyone was afraid. Businesses were at the threat of closing down, people losing jobs, we're all locked in. How did you find that inspiration, that determination to actually start? And that's a big, bold move, I would say, right in the middle of the pandemic. What was it like and how did it happen?
That's a great question, Raf. And, I think a lot of people tell us that. It's like, wow, you started in the middle of the pandemic. You're so versatile. You were so quick to react. E-commerce obviously caught the tailwind of the pandemic, right? There was a big boom. And the truth be told is that, clearly my co-founder, Bella, and myself, who happens to be my life partner as well as my business partner, we had no crystal ball, right? We didn't see a pandemic coming. And the concept of edamama and the platform was actually under development for probably about a year before we launched. And we launched in May 2020, right at the heart of the ECQ. And so I guess what we saw was, or I guess what we anticipated, was an opportunity that was independent of the pandemic, right? Which was the opportunity to help Filipinos across the country get access to quality, affordable goods and services in a very convenient way. So delivered digital first, but I think from day one, we always saw the offline opportunity. And so Bella actually was spending the most time focused on developing the platform, the technology behind edamama. I had another job at the time in the retail space, which I can share more on. And we were set to launch in March 2020. So by that point, I took a step back as well from my job. We saw a big opportunity. We said, hey, let's go all in on this. And then as luck would have had it, the lockdowns hit, right? So we had to push back our launch by a couple of months. This was right. And we're talking about now March 2020, the height of the first enhanced community quarantine here, right? ECQ. And there was a lot of uncertainty. So, we spent the first couple of months just building the community. We had already made a decision to launch the business. We had onboarded the founding team at that point. We had raised a small angel round. So for us, there's no turning back, right? We were still going to give it a shot. And I guess two aspects at play. One, we saw the opportunity to actually help Filipino moms and dads at a time when there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unpredictability. Back in March, April, May 2020, no one knew what was going on with the pandemic. There was certainly no vaccine on the horizon. People were dying, right? Especially older people, but and those with sort of heightened risks. But at the same time, we didn't really know what would be the long-term effect on children, on babies, expectant mothers, right? And so we'd like to think that we were able to actually provide a service to parents around the country to give them access to these authentic, reliable, essential products, right? Whether it's day-to-day essentials or even items like fashion and accessories. Without leaving their homes, in a safe way, the convenience of having products dropped to their doorstep, and then minimizing risks to themselves and to their families, right? At the same time, of course, it was a really challenging operating environment. We had people we also had to look after, right, at the end of the day.
Yes.
So putting in very strict safety protocols, safety processes in our warehouse, business continuity plans. What if somebody got COVID? How would we operate, right? Given others might also have to isolate. How do you shift so that you ensure business continuity and we serve our customers? So there were a lot of considerations, but when you're in the thick of it, you just have to react on your feet. And that's what we did. And I think we got a head start as a result of that, but we're also able to benefit a lot of people in the process, which is the best outcome, I think.
Yes, and I love that. I love how you really, well, as you mentioned it, when you're in the thick of it, you just really have to think on your feet, right, and decide on the fly, and really just get things going. I can imagine that time there. I can imagine the dilemma. You're just starting and then you're already thinking about business continuity. Like, what kind of a problem is that when you just started? It's already a monster in itself to get a business to start running, but then you're already worrying about continuity and making sure things keep on running, given all the uncertainties now. And I'm sure this is all actually coming from a strong conviction, right? A strong conviction, a strong inspiration that is really, I would assume, do let me know, right? What that actually kept you going despite all the challenges, despite all the uncertainties. There must have been something that was really pushing you every day in the middle of the pandemic. Despite all the challenges, of course, we never saw the pandemic coming. It was a challenge that we never saw in our business plans, right? So what was that? What was that inspiration for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Raf. It's one to reflect on, right? I think number one is obviously, again, the opportunity for edamama was something that we saw even before the pandemic. We decided to take a digital first approach because we saw a gap in the e-commerce landscape here. You had sort of a lot of goods being sold online that were fake, inauthentic. It's very tough as a parent to find everything all in one place. A reliable but still wide assortment of products at different price points and different categories. And so I think that thesis didn't change, right, during the pandemic. In fact, the opportunity became even more urgent, even more important, because a lot of people couldn't shop offline, and were too anxious to shop offline.
Yes.
So I think number one, the vision and the motivation behind providing trusted products and services to Filipinos in an expanded way continue to drive us. Number two, the mission got even more urgent as a digital first business, because again, offline it was a lot tougher for people to step outside their house. There was very, very stringent restrictions in terms of how often you could step out, how many people could shop at any given time. A lot of stores were shut down, right? And then number three is also, I guess, being motivated by serving our customers, right, and making an impact and making a difference in people's lives by providing this service, and a lot of essential products, right, like diapers, food and nutrition products, bathing and grooming products, right, which parents needed day to day for, of course, their babies, their kids, but also for their household, also for themselves. And then finally, also to our people, right? I mean, it wasn't just the two of us at that time, Bella and myself. We had recruited a small team, right? We already had people's livelihoods that were dependent on us, right? And so we said, look, we owe it to the vision, the opportunity we saw. We owe it to our customers. We owe it to our people to give this a shot, and see where it goes, right? And thankfully, we saw a lot of early traction after we launched in May 2020, on Mother's Day, May 2020. Perfect. And we were soon able to, by the end of that year, get the first check for our institutional funding round, right? Which then set us up to sort of expand further and build the business further.
I love that. And from what you were saying, I think you pretty much found yourself in the middle of the perfect storm that pretty much catapulted you to where you guys are now. But I hope you don't mind, I'd love to really get to it now. That conviction seems very strong, and I love how you considered all different facets as you were going along. But what was that aha moment for you when you were just in the phase of conceptualizing edamama, before you got into the launch plans and operationalizing everything, even before you going to the investors, right? What was that aha moment that made you realize that this is an actual need? Now, you did mention the need was already there. You already saw the need for it even before the pandemic came. The pandemic simply accelerated it, and you really found yourself in that perfect storm, from which you emerged the victor, right? But what was that aha moment before 2020 that actually really brought you to what edamama is today?
Another great question, Raf. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the inspiration behind edamama is our two children. We've got two kids, a 10-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy now. Right, who were the inspiration behind edamama. I guess the pain points we were solving were our own to start off with, right? We weren't dreaming up something else, or we didn't have to do kind of like market research to find the gap in the market and things like that, right? I mean, it was as simple as parents of two young children. So back then they were obviously much younger, going back sort of 4 years now. And one story kind of encapsulates it. Our son was born in late 2017. I guess back when our daughter was born in 2013, e-commerce wasn't as big. And I think maybe also Bella and myself were much younger. We weren't quite as deliberate as parents in terms of sort of seeking out a different kind of goods and products for our kids, and doing a lot of thoughtful research behind that and things like that, right? We got a lot as gifts, but with number two, we were, I think, a lot more present, a lot more thoughtful. Said, okay, look, we were young and anxious first time round, a little bit more seasoned parents second time round, and so a lot more, I think, thoughtful about parenting. And so that's at that point when we started kind of like looking around, I think both online and offline. We saw that either products were, branded, but, tend to be imported, very expensive. A lot of the your average Filipino might not be able to afford it. I mean, even ourselves, we found a lot of it very pricey, right? Even if you compare the same product to what you get in the US or Australia or wherever. And number two, you'd find products that were very affordable, very cheap, but not very reliable. a lot of it was sort of cross-border generic merchandise that might have been dumped
Mm.
from China, right? And or but of course, there's a lot of quality products as well made in China, but a lot of stuff that doesn't have any kind of assurances, certifications, and that you would be hesitant to try for your child, right? And one particular story, I guess, was the aha moment was when we went to one of the online platforms at the time, and we ordered. We were trying to find a certain product for our son, which was this stroller come tricycle. So the kid could pedal and sort of get a workout, and at an early stage learn how to pedal a bike. And at the same time, if he or she got tired, you could, as a parent, push the stroller, right? And so it had a lot of good reviews online. We paid a fair price for it. And yet when we ordered the product, it was delivered to our doorstep. Firstly, I think it was delivered probably 2 or 3 weeks later than we ordered, right? I think we might have even forgotten it was coming.
Oh
When
my.
it finally came, it was in this box of nuts and bolts with no operating manual to put it together.
Oh
So we had no
gosh.
clue. Bella at the time just chucked the box at me, said, "Oh, Nish, figure this out." I took one look at it. I'm an engineer by background, but I know my limitations. I was like, I'm not getting into this. I outsourced it to our driver, who took, I think, half a day to put it together. And yet, even after it was put together, right? If you put your kid on it and you shook it slightly left, slightly right, it was unstable. It would topple over. And then to
Oh
add to it,
no.
there was like a couple of bolts rather sticking out from the side that could actually scratch your child, right? And so it's at that point, I think, was the aha moment where we said, wow, there's either like this expensive branded stuff, there's this, obviously clearly a lot of cheap stuff that is not very trustworthy out there, right? And there's very little in between, and there must be an easier way to both source and distribute and provide access to products that are affordable, that are creative, but are still kind of authentic and quality, right? And that
Mm-mm.
was the core vision for Edamama, right? So we started out with that vision to firstly aggregate the best products in the market all in one place, and in an extremely convenient way be able to deliver them to customers, right, with a high quality customer experience. And then number two, understanding what was out there, understanding where the gaps in the market were, both pricing and assortment wise, and then looking to ourselves start bringing in and launching our own products, right, whether they were private label, cross-border brands, to help plug those gaps for our customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really how Edamama evolved. That was the aha moment, and here we are today.
I love that. I mean, that is clearly an aha moment. And just like what they say, the best ideas come from real life problems that and pain points that you actually experience yourself. And I love it. While I was listening to you, I was just thinking, oh, I can't find it, might as well do it myself. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. But I'm very curious now, as I understand, you relocated to the Philippines around in 2012, right? And of course, you found that gap, and just like we see these we see these gaps in the market, or we even have our own pain points day to day. But I want to understand, of course, given your experience in other countries, in your past work, in your career, what was it that you saw in the Philippine market that made it worth that, of course, that risk, right? To actually go out there and say, I want to solve this gap, I want to solve this problem. What did you see in the Philippine market that made it worth it?
Yeah, great. Another great question. I mean, I guess you got to take a step back to why we are, in the Philippine market to start off with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Clearly from my accent, you can probably tell I'm not Filipino, right? But we've adopted the Philippines as home. As you mentioned, we've been here since 2012. By the end of this year, it will be 12 years, right? And I think what we moved. My background was not an entrepreneur, was not even in tech, right, to start. I was an engineer by trading. I went to business school in the US, moved to becoming a project developer and investor in the power and energy space, right? So I spent a couple of years developing and financing power plants across Southeast Asia. Was briefly in Singapore and Vietnam for about a year and a half before moving to the Philippines completely by accident. My company asked me to, which was a power company I was working with at the time, asked me to move here to help expand a power plant they owned. And coming to the Philippines, just fell in love with the country and its people, and so moved here from Vietnam. Vietnam's a wonderful country, right? But I think the ability to just forge personal and professional connections here, everyone's so warm, so friendly, everybody spoke English, right? The economy at that point was very hot, right? Philippines is one of the fastest growing countries in Asia, if not the world. And there was so much to be built, right? I mean, yet despite all of these fundamentals, right? High literacy, people who are, English speaking, the economy growing so fast, there were so many gaps to solve, right? For the Filipino consumer in infrastructure, which is what brought me here. And so many aspects of the economy that had been developed in the likes of Australia or the US or sort of other markets, but was still very nascent here, right? And so that's what I think sparks the entrepreneurial passion and excitement to say, hey, you can be a change maker here, right? You can be bringing some of the management insights and experience from other markets here and understanding how to adapt that to a local context with the local consumer mindset. You can move the needle on impact here a lot more than you could if you were, say, working in Silicon Valley, right, or working in Sydney. And so that's the opportunity we saw. That's the opportunity that kept us here. And then so we moved on from sort of corporate jobs that we had over the years and started Edamama. Before that, we had both run startups and for other people, right, with for other majority investors. And so we had that experience to sort of leverage off and then apply towards our own baby, if you will, right? Our third baby. We've got one on the way now, so we're completing the logo.
Congratulations!
Thank you. But Edamama is you could say Edamama was a third baby, right before that.
Yes, yeah, I love that. I mean, sorry, I gotta admit, I got distracted. Congratulations on the third on the coming baby that you're expecting. Anyway, but that's very interesting. I mean, I love how you mentioned the key that you really looked into was looking at the experience that you've seen in other markets and bringing that and localizing that in the market. But I want to unpack that further. Right? That's actually, I'm sure there's a lot to be said about that. But what were the key principles or the fundamentals that you actually held on to, or that you really applied in order to localize something that you've seen actually works in other countries? Because as we know, what could work in another market might not necessarily work here. So what did it take for you to localize these key things that you found in other markets?
Yeah, again, great question. I mean, if you take something as, for example, performance management, right? I mean, if you look at the States, you look at some other markets, right? Say, okay, look, we got to set these KPIs. These are the goals. They have to be measurable. They have to be actionable, and then you communicate them down to your people, and then you've got to hit these KPIs, and that's how you succeed. And that's how I guess you create a meritocracy, right? So
Mhm.
for example, the element of meritocracy and performance management that has been taught in business schools all over the West, certainly, right? And when you come to the Philippines, you realize that relationships matter, right? I think relationships are
Absolutely.
very important. And if you took those principles and you just said, okay, team, here's this X, Y, and Z. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to hit. I'm going to check back with you in a month, right? There probably wouldn't be too many of them around, in that month, right? I
Yes.
think it's kind of like you say, sink or swim, and you've got to like just deliver, and you don't kind of invest first and foremost in the connection, right?
Mm.
Having those personal connections, developing those personal relationships, having a community oriented mindset, right? And so that is an example of, I guess, having to localize certain management frameworks, right?
Mhm.
Here you can still absolutely be very meritocratic, be very driven, create a very high performing organization, but you put relationships first, right? And you sort of work on cultivating those, creating trust and safety within your team, across your colleagues, and then you push towards that KPI and common goal, and achieve it together, right? Um, so yeah, that's I hope that's kind of illustrative of some of the things we've had to adapt to on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I mean, I'm sure that's easier said than done, especially considering it's a completely different environment, different culture, different people, and most importantly, you were right smack in the middle of the pandemic. So I can imagine what it was like operationally on a day-to-day basis. But now, looking at where we are now and where Edamama is, right? Has now become the leading the leading parenting focused e-commerce platform in the Philippines. Now, what were the key strategies that you really practiced and you really employed day by day through the years since you started back in 2020 that would actually say is what led Edamama to what it is today?
That's a great question. So I guess firstly, we were the
Mhm.
right place at the right time. Uh, Having said that, the pandemic has obviously receded over the last year or two, uh, and e-commerce continues to grow very fast in this country, right? I mean,
Mhm.
this year Philippines will be the fastest growing e-commerce market in the world. It probably was last year as well. 90% plus of retail sales are still happening offline. So,
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at some other markets, I mean, China certainly is probably 40% plus at this point, right? A lot of our neighbors in Southeast Asia alone, likes of Singapore or Thailand, I mean, you're well into double digits in terms of online retail penetration. So I think firstly, pick a market that is underserved and that you see a lot
Mhm.
of growth potential in, which is what we did. Second, people talk about product market fit, right? Oh, when you get something to market, there's a lot of traction early. You've hit kind of product market fit. You have strong unit economics. But I think what Edamama had, which is a secret ingredient, is management market fit, right? And Edamama, while of course we serve all parents, right? At the end of the day, we all know as Filipinos here, the mama, the mom is the chief household decision maker.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that's kind of like our target market, right?
Mhm.
And at Edamama, I mean, I would say I'm a minority, right, in terms of being a male in management. Bill always jokes that I'm one of the diversity hires, right? But 80% of our management team is women,
Mm,
and pretty much all in customer facing roles are moms.
mm,
So clearly Bela's a mom. She handles that whole part of the portfolio of the business, the customer facing side. Our head of marketing is a mom, a head of brand is a mom, a head of business development is a mom who's getting all of the merchandise onto the platform. Head of customer experience is a mom, right? And so I think firstly that gave us a very strong understanding of the customer and understanding of the market and consumer insights. And because many ways you don't have to guess. There's no guesswork around what the customer needs and wants, right? You just think as a customer, and you therefore execute in line with how you think, right? So that was one aspect that worked very well for us. The next aspect, I think, is investing in community early. Building community early. This is a long-term moat, right? So even when we had the ECQ and we had to push back our launch date, we ended up for over 2 months running a campaign on Facebook called #HappyAtHome, where we just served as I guess a companion to parents during those early uncertain days of the pandemic. We would host talks with doctors or moms, experts on certain topics. We had classes, we had even exercise related videos and activities, and so very early on started building this community of very engaged followers that today is probably approaching 500,000 across our various social channels, and if you take into account our own database, right, over 1 million. And this creates a lot of network effects because you now have customers that are talking to each other, right? There's word of mouth referrals. They're coming to Edamama not just to shop, but also to connect with each other, also for the content that we generate, which is a lot of educational content. We've got through our Discover feature on the app, through our Connect feature on the app, you can connect with other like-minded parents and moms. We host chats with doctors, with celebrity mamas, right, and things like that, and other experts. And so this has created a lot of stickiness with the customer base and a lot of loyalty to Edamama as a platform that, again, has propelled us forward, right? And I guess the next couple are just being very obsessed about the customer, right? And just customer obsession is probably a term that's, I think it was first popularized maybe by Amazon, but thrown out there a lot today. But it really is something that is, worth obsessing over, right? And so really keeping the focus on the customer at all times. If they have any issues with their delivery, trying to have that resolved in a speedy manner. We've got customer service agents, again, mostly moms that sort of help resolve these issues. And so, we try to create a very high quality customer experience by having a very intuitive, seamless, neat app. And at the same time, having a very effective fulfillment experience, right, and delivery experience, right. And then finally, resolving bottlenecks fast. So I think once you've built your business plan, right, and you've said, okay, I'm going to hit these milestones in 6 months, it's about making sure you have the infrastructure, the systems and processes to achieve those goals, and you're rolling them out in advance, right, so that you're not bottlenecking yourself when you get to a certain level of scale. What do I mean? For example, warehousing. We started with a 100 square meter room on the second level of a compound in Metro Manila. Today we have a 6,000 square meter warehouse, and we're already kind of like bumping up against the capacity limits there, right? And but making sure that you're expanding. In between, we went from 100 to 200 to 400 to 2,000, and so continuing to ensure that you have this this runway ahead of you. Your tech is being debottlenecked. You end up building layers of code over code, and then it comes to a point where you have a big sale, and at midnight customers can't get in. The app is crashing because you can't take so many customers at the same time. So you're going to take a step back and now kind of like refactor code and streamline your app. So ensuring that you're continuing to kind of address these challenges as you scale is critical. And so, right place, right time, management market fit, investing in community early, obsessing over your customers, resolving bottlenecks fast.
I love that. I mean, the way you said it essentially is you said right place, right time, where to play, mention management, market fit, essentially getting the right team, get the right places, right people in the right places. And you said also investing in community, getting obsessed in the people, and essentially agility in innovation and implementation. I love that. And that really shows us actually the heart that you have. I love how you mentioned actually that the people, the management are actually moms in themselves. And I love how that actually shows the authenticity in that very principle of being obsessed with the customer, right? And now, of course, with these key strategies in place, from a management perspective, it's always, it could be sometimes too easy to talk about these things, but getting them consistently run on the ground all the way down through the as you, especially as you scale, as you grow your organization, as more and more people come in and join the organization, how do you keep these strategies intact and the principles behind them to make sure that as you go through the process, as you go through it day by day, nothing would be sacrificed? How do you make sure of that?
Yeah, great question, Raf. I think you do get to a point in your organizational evolution where you got to take a step back, right? And sort of say, okay, have we got the right processes, the right foundation in place to scale up fast again, right? And I think, you can go from 0 to 1 pretty quickly. You can go from 1 to 10 again pretty quickly. But when you start trying to go from, okay, 10 to 100 or 100 to 1000, there's very different challenges at play, right? And it starts with, multiple facets, right? I mean, so one is people. I think, you have to constantly evaluate, right? Is the team you have from a 0 to 1 for the 0 to 1 phase the same team that will be able to scale with you when you go 1 to 10, 10 to 100? I mean, they may be awesome, very loyal, fantastic people, right? But it takes certain more specialized skill sets very often as you scale to be able to get to that next level, right? And so I think step by step, like getting in that that specialized skill set, right? Recruiting that specialized skill set, often it's faster than kind of like building it from within, making a lot of mistakes along the way, burning a lot more money, right, than you otherwise would. So that's number one, getting in the right people, right, to preserve that momentum that you were talking about, right? Two is making sure that the company is set up structurally to preserve those principles and generate success, right? And so you've got you can have the right people, but they have to be in the right structure within the organization, interplaying with the right stakeholders in the right reporting lines to kind of ensure efficiencies. Next, having the right systems and processes, right? So documenting all of these aspects, right? Putting in service level agreements, right? SLAs internally and externally, saying, okay, what does it mean by customer obsession? Okay, we will get, a customer his or her delivery within, X days if they live in the province, right? Or within X day if they live in Metro Manila, right? I mean, we are really looking to try to do the majority of our deliveries same day or next day in the coming months, right? And so having these KPIs quantified is very important, right? And then finally, when you have the right people, sort of placed in the organization in the right structure with the right processes, the right systems to facilitate interactions between those people and customers, of course, outside of the organization, the product of that is culture, right? And so creating that culture of high performance, of customer obsession, of meritocracy, and a fun at the end of the day, right? I mean, you want to look forward to coming to work. You want to come to work in a setting that you don't have to deal with politics, and it's not a toxic environment, and it's fun for everyone to kind of deliver these results together. Uh, that's that's what we live by.
I love that. And now, now that we're seeing where edamama is, right? Um, and recently, especially, one of the bold feats that we've seen from edamama is that you've actually managed to shift from online to offline. I mean, I love that because normally what you would expect, it's the other way around, right? Offline to online, or offline, especially with the pandemic, a lot of our offline retailers found themselves having to shift very rapidly, actually, to online. And of course, that's an operational nightmare in and of itself. But the other way around, how exactly were you able to do that? And what really spurred that for you when you already have a strong growth of business online? And I love that you mentioned you're already gearing up for next date or same day delivery. That's amazing. But then now you're moving from online to offline. What spurred that, and what did it take for you to take that big bold shift as well?
Yeah. So Raf, I think edamama from day one was always conceptualized as an online to offline play. I would say e-commerce was the entry strategy because it was a clear gap that we saw in the market, and we wanted to plug. And we thought starting off online gives you tremendous reach, right? I mean, without having to open stores all over the country, you could service customers from Ilagan in the north to Iligan in the south, and everywhere in between, right, from our sort of centrally located warehouse here in Metro Manila. And of course, as we scale, we can see if it makes sense to open more warehouses. So I think from day one, though, we said, okay, e-commerce is a great entry strategy. It gives you nationwide impact, brand awareness, community building at scale early on. But at the end of the day, I think, my background had been retail before edamama. I was the country head of Mr. DIY, which is one of the largest home improvement retailers in Asia. I've also run retail businesses in Malaysia concurrently. And so I think I was very aware of the power of offline retail and the reach of offline retail, right? I mean, again, 90% plus of sales of retail sales in this country are happening offline. The mall is a place that people go to here, not just to shop, but to connect with community, right? It's a family event. You go with your family, you enjoy the aircon, you go to the cinema,
Yes.
you eat, right? And so malls are really, as Filipinos being very community oriented, very socially minded, we didn't want to ignore the offline retail experience, whether it was in malls or even outside of malls. And so from day one, I think we looked at edamama as online to offline. This was kind of on the back of my own personal retail experience. We've of course brought on board a very strong team who has proven offline retail experience. At the same time, there are a lot of commonalities, right? I mean, when you talk about warehousing, the inventory management, even the creative side of marketing and so on. I mean, there's a lot of functions that are, and even dealing with our suppliers, right? So there's a lot of functions that are shared, that can be shared at the back end. Whereas on the front end, of course, we are now opening offline storefronts. We're capturing a share now of that 90% plus of sales that happens offline. And I think the biggest also motivator is from the standpoint of the customer, right? You want them to maximize convenience when you're shopping with edamama. And so for us, it's not a question of being either online or offline. It's a question of serving our customer wherever they are. So whether it's the end of a day, it's 10 p.m., it's a long day, they're in for some retail therapy, they want to get on the mobile app and pick up some essentials for the household, or a gift for their child or their friend's birthday. or they're in the mall on a weekend, right? And they're with their family and they're shopping and socializing. So I think sort of creating that omni-channel, seamless online to offline experience, maximizing convenience for the customer was key from day one. So we're very much focused on the offline rollout of our stores over the next couple of years.
Yes. I mean, that really encapsulates perfectly what it means to be obsessed with the customer. Like what you said, it's not about what channel, online or offline, but ultimately it's about being available, being there for the customer. So now that this is where Edamama is, what's next for Edamama, Nishant?
Yeah, so as mentioned, where as you pointed out, Raf, we are going offline. We've opened 3 stores so far. So we have a store in a small pop-up kiosk in Glorieta in Makati. We have a larger scale, full-scale pop-up store in SM South Mall in Las Piñas. We just opened our first fixed store at Robinson's Magnolia. And we'll be opening more stores over the next couple of months, right? Starting with Robinson's Manila next month, and then many more down the line. And so offline is one that is a big priority for us over the next couple of years. The other is scaling our own private label and cross-border brands. Edamama's private label brand is Bean. We started out with a big focus on fashion, fashion for babies, for kids. Again, an area we saw a gap in the market. We do exclusive collaborations with up-and-coming Filipino artists to create designs that are one-off, collector item collections that we typically don't do another runoff with a lot of Filipino themes, right? And then there's many other kind of styles as well that we have under that umbrella. And then now we're looking at other other categories of private label and border brands as well. Where we see gaps in the market, either in assortment or pricing. We've also launched the biggest brand in Australia called Anko, which is the house brand of Kmart Australia. So they've launched in the Philippines with Edamama as their authorized distributor. And they are available in many other categories. So they have amazing wooden toys. So focused on our sort of theme of sustainability and at affordable prices, right? They've got amazing gear for babies, whether it's strollers or porta cots or bassinets or high chairs, training potties and things like that. And we'll be looking at opening other categories as well in the near future.
Awesome. I mean, that's very exciting. A lot of things to happen, a lot of things to come. But now where Edamama is going towards, right? Let's just take a quick pause right now. And I want to hear from you, Nishant, speaking to fellow startup founders, actually like myself, right? And also other aspiring startup founders, other CEOs. What would be your message for them? And how can the likes of us find ourselves, right, following your footsteps and to building Edamama to the success that it is today?
So Rafa, yeah, I think it starts with the first question. Do you want to be a startup founder?
That is a big question.
That's a big question. I mean, you're a founder. We both know firsthand, right? This is not an easy journey, right?
Not easy.
I mean, creating impact, creating something out of nothing, basically, right? It's tremendously fulfilling, but at the same time tremendously challenging, right? And you've got to leave a lot of the typical safety net behind. That said, if that burning spark is there to have autonomy, to exercise creativity, to create a lot of impact, I don't think there's a better time than to start a business than now. Yes, there's high inflation. Yes, there's fears of a global recession. The slowdowns in different major economies. But you know what? A large percentage of the really big unicorns out there are listed today, even on public stock exchanges, were formed in downturns. And the reason for that is they had to be from day one so much more focused on financial viability, on operating discipline, on being a lot more sustainable, right? Whereas a lot of startups that were founded over the last decade had access to a lot of cheap cash, a lot of venture fueled money, right? And there was growth at all costs, right? And it was all about acquiring users, acquiring market share with no sort of adherence to the bottom line. And of course, we've seen a lot of blow-ups, spectacular blow-ups happen over the last couple of years, right? Whether it's the likes of your WeWorks or to even smaller sort of but prominent startups. And so I would say, look, focus on solving a massive problem or solving a problem that is meaningful, right? Over time, you can sort of expand the scope of that problem. Focus on operating discipline and financial viability from day one, because when the market turns, and hopefully it does, right, you're all the more set up to scale up in a much more profitable, sustainable way. If you can initially start off and bootstrap and great, right? There's less of your company you have to give up, and you're not dealing with managing investors and things like that. But if it is essential to kind of get an accelerated start, maybe hire a big team, by all means, go out, raise money. I mean, we've raised money from a fantastic set of partners. And the reason for that is, right, we've optimized for values, right? We've optimized for relationships, for chemistry, for strategic value add, right? How can this investor help me, right? It's not just about having a big name brand or a fancy surname of a super angel, right? It's about how can this person be a true partner on the journey, right?
True.
So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nishant. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I wish we could keep on going more, but the good news for our viewers on this episode is that this is just a teaser, because you could learn more and catch Nishant in the coming Retail Leaders Summit that's happening very soon. So the good news is you can still catch Nishant there. And so stay tuned with PRA for news and updates for the coming Retail Leaders Summit. And of course, thank you so much, Nishant, for joining us for this episode. We've learned so much. I've learned so much from you, and truly, truly inspiring that story, finding yourself right in the middle of the perfect storm, but still having that obsession for the customer while always keeping in mind, as you mentioned, financial viability, operational discipline, and sustainability to make sure the vision will become a reality. So thank you so much again for joining us today, Nishant. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Raf, and look forward to seeing you at the next PRA Summit. So take care, everyone. Great to be here.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you again, Nishant. Again, you can catch Nishant at the coming Retail Leaders Summit. Now, this episode has been truly refreshing and inspiring. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who captured very powerful insights from this conversation. And it's a great and vital reminder for aspiring business leaders out there that embracing change and innovation through pivoting is truly a viable path. And of course, the key is sustainability along the way. Now, never fear, of course, the prospect of creating something new out of nothing, just like what Nishant did, and truly exploring uncharted territory. Always bear in mind that in every setback, there lies the opportunity for a remarkable comeback. So that concludes our episode of Let's Talk Retail. We sincerely hope that each one of you has gleaned valuable takeaways that can be applied to your respective businesses, regardless of the size. Please remember to show your support by liking and subscribing to PRA's YouTube channel and following our Spotify account. Again, I'm Raf Layosa, founder and CEO of RetailGate Technologies and Managing Director of Innovation One Digital Marketing. We'll catch you in the next episode of Let's Talk Retail. Until then, let's continue to build meaningful relationships. See you then.